Good afternoon. All right, so in the before lunch session, I discussed with you the logical questions as we are now going to approach, because crux-based questions we have done in the basic reading skill sheets. So the approach matters a lot, and it brings in a kind of accuracy in your in your answers. So always, if there is one passage and one question, you should read the passage first, and then you read the para to identify its structure, the structure of the para. For example, mostly in the logical paragraphs, you will come across that the para will have this kind of structure. Just like a building, the head of the building and then the pillars that carry the load of the building. So similarly, there will be the main point of the author, and this main point will be proven on the basis of the given data and premises. So the pillars, the job of the pillar will be done by the premises or the facts, data used by the author, and the main point then will be established. So you need to identify the very structure of the passage. Where is the main point, what are the premises, the data, we also call it premise. So premise or premise is that evidence or the reason that the author used to establish his main point. So second point, the point was to identify the structure. That is a very important part. Third thing that you need to inculcate in as a habit is anticipate your answer if possible. In some questions it is possible, like you can learn that in some assumption questions it is possible, and then argument based questions it is possible, then you can go ahead with that. Fourth point is that apply evaluation and elimination method. The answer of RC sometimes cannot be just, after reading the para, you cannot simply point out the correct answer. At times you have to go through the all options and notice if there is any visible error in them, any inconsistency, any kind of illogical connection with the passage, then you are supposed to eliminate those options. So eliminate the weak options, and then you are left with the options that are more potential, So then you apply these, then you evaluate them. So elimination and evaluation method will be more effective. These are the 4 points I discussed earlier with you as a common point, approach. Now point number 5, let me just finish these points and then we'll go to the questions. Like point number 5 is, whenever you read, you are supposed to read for implication. Implication is the meaning, the conclusion that you deduce, the meaning that you take out from a word, from a sentence, a statement. So rather focus on the meaning, the new piece of information that the sentence has brought you to. Instead of just reading the words and not, focusing on the kind of meaning that we come across. Suppose if you read a sentence and there is one meaning, the other day you solve a question. Suppose this is clearly given that A is bigger than B. A is bigger than B has this clear meaning, that is B is younger, smaller. But if they say that A is not bigger than B, and if a student in a hurry just thinks that it means A is smaller, if he looks at only one aspect of the meaning, then of course he is doing injustice. So reading for implication, like A is not bigger than B, means that there are 2 possibilities. Number 1, A could be smaller than B, and number 2, A and B could be equal. For both conditions are satisfied with the statement that A is not bigger than B. If they are equal, or A is smaller. So these are the 2 implications of this statement. So some statements have just single meaning, some statements where more than one meaning comes out. There is a possibility, you must be careful and then evaluate. Both meanings should be kept on mind, So just don't go ahead with one meaning. I cite you an example of a CSAT passage where author says that, the data drainage I'm just using the initials, data drainage is now freely done by the developed countries or the companies of the developed countries from the developing countries. Okay. Now, your focus should be this word freely. Data is freely connected. And now it has got two meanings. Freely connected means that they are not paying any money to the developing countries from where the data is being extracted out. And the second meaning is also possible from freely, that without any restriction they are doing this. So if a student only focuses on one meaning, then of course he is wrong, because the whole sense coming out of the freely word is more than one, that is two. Either it's the money without paying money, or without any restriction, without any barrier. So dear, point number 5 is very important, that whenever you come across, you should read for implication. जिसको आप हिंदी में कहते हैं कि भावनाओं को समझो, तो ये बिल्कुल उसी बात को कहता है कि आप मीनिंग को, अर्थ को देखो. Now next point number 6 is, again related to your habit, and the point is very important, that you should don't make your own assumptions, or anything of this nature. Like, you should not have any prejudices, any assumptions, any presuppositions from your side. So don't make your own assumptions, because there will be no end then. So here, your GS knowledge of GS, your understanding of the topic, though they may not be given in the passage, may play a very, very threatening role here. So be careful. For example, I cite some simple examples. Suppose a passage is talking about a lady, a man, Manak, and a lady. It's a CSAT passage, and the lady's name is Guleri, right? And there's some story about Manak and Guleri is given. And you have assumed that since both sound Hindi names, so they must be Indian. Though about their nationality, nothing is mentioned. So don't make this kind of assumptions, right? They may lead you to some kind of wrong options. Similarly, if you are told that, simple example another, if A is a student of 9th standard and his cousin B is a student of 11th standard, and you have simply make an assumption that it means that B must be taller because he is in the higher class, right? So you should not, because there is no fixed thing. So don't make your own assumptions, and especially the GS knowledge, make sure that your option should be based on the information given in the passage, or it should have some logical connections. I hope point number 6 is clear. Now comes point number 7. It is how you assimilate the given information, right? The way to assimilate the given information. At times there are, the things are all, of course, in RC or statements, in logic, critical reasoning question, they are just written, verbal form is there. So some students have this habit to read and reread the very same material, and they do not try to, make any take any effective step to assimilate this information. So what should you do? You should rather use visuals, equations, maybe some mathematical symbols to comprehend. Effectively. So, if you remember, there was a question I gave you on the day 1. Let's say this question number 13. It says either A and B are of the same age or A is older than B. Just by reading this statement, you may still miss out something crucial. So, a strong recommendation is that you must go for some kind of mathematical symbol. Either A and B are of the same age or A is older than B. So, it could be the symbol. Either they are of same age or A is older. You get the equation. Either C and D are of the same age or D is older than C. So, it is like second equation. Then B is older than C. B is older than C, it means it clearly gives you information in the third equation, one dimensionally, that B is older than C. It means since A is either older than B or equal to B, and it's clearly given that B is older than C, it means from these two we can deduce that A is greater than C or A is older than C. So D is the right option. But by making the equations, the things become clearer. Hence, I would strongly recommend that you should not simply base upon just reading and rereading the textual information. Rather, take a step ahead, make equations or make visuals. And that is the reason syllogism is taught in CSAT part. That is the reason Venn diagram was taught, and just so that your visualization and your imagination through visuals you are able to comprehend the given information. You will be taught syllogism, that's in CSAT syllabus. One more question I show you, this question number 17. On the day 1 you solve, it says lady's finger is tastier than cabbage. So one way is just to read it, but the other way is that since other vegetables are also mentioned, so there is some interrelation, hence go for some equations or mathematical symbols. So I hope point number 7 is clear to everyone, right? So it's lady's finger is tastier than cabbage, lady's finger tastier than cabbage, and cauliflower is tastier than lady's finger, so cauliflower is tastier than. So from here we get that cauliflower is tastier than cabbage, and that is given D option. However, the third statement says cabbage is not tastier than peas. It means it has got two meanings. Cabbage, either cabbage and peas could be of same taste, or cabbage is not tastier, it means cabbage could be less tasty than peas. So these are the two meanings, and you need to consider both when you evaluate the conclusion. So that's the reason C is wrong, because it says cabbage is the least tasty of the four vegetables, whereas there is a possibility that they are of same taste also. So it has simply overlooked the first possibility. So reading for implication, complete meaning, and using symbols is strongly recommended. All right, so come back to my yes. So this is point number 7, and then of course, if you pay attention to the keywords, they help you a lot, and the keywords the list is also given in the book, the RC book given by KSG, and like in the next class, maybe after some time, or maybe in the next class, I will discuss about the keywords with you, because that's again a theoretical thing. So folks, now we're ready for the logical questions, and before we go to ahead and we take up some question, understand that when the logical question is asked, any type of question, suppose a question in the logical question, a question of corollary is asked. If this is asked, so what should be the very first thing? So your approach towards logical questions should again be very methodical and calculated. You all know lighthouse. Just a lighthouse used to show the path to boat and ship to come to the shore, right? So this beam of light was shown, and then because of the help of that, they would come to ship. A ship or a boat would come to the shore, right? So similarly, the lighthouse for the approach of the logical question, I just want to tell you that always you have to be careful of for all logical questions, whatever logical questions we take up, maybe corollary, maybe implication, I'm just writing two examples, or Any other question, let's say assumption or inference or conclusion, for any of these questions, your approach, point number one, the first lighthouse is that you must know that what kind of information this question require. And what does this question mean? What is corollary? Unless you know that in simplified version, in simplified form, the information it needs as an answer, you cannot take step number two. Step number two is like evaluation of the option. So first be clear and have clarity about the question. Lots of students come with this query that in the beginning classes, sir, I solved this passage, but there were more than one option that were making sense to me as an answer. Yeah, I was confused between three options, between two options. Two options is a very common thing. Why does it happen? There could be other reasons also, but the one major reason for this confusion between two options is that you don't have clarity about the information the question requires. The clarity. So if the question asks, if the question is why, then certainly you cannot pass on the answer of what or where or when as an answer of why. Similarly, if the question is how, you cannot pass on the answer of why. So there the question requires or needs a certain piece of information. So the first point should be, I mean, we will proceed to when we deal with this question is that point number one is that the kind of information. The information the given question, the question asks, seeks, किस तरह का information इसको चाहिए as an answer. That is the point number one, right? Everything depends on that. Then only you will proceed to the paragraph to read it. In the paragraph, you should be aware of the type of analysis you need to do to extract out this piece of information. The analysis of the para to extract out this specific information. So first thing, what does an assumption want as an answer? Yeah, what kind of information it seeks, what corollary needs as an answer, and then how to analyze the passage to get that answer, to extract out that piece of information. Point number three is about options, traits of the options. Traits of the options, of course, both types of options, the traits of the right option as well as the traits of the wrong options. You must be aware of the both type of options, and it will be collectively helping you. So I write the point number three here, the traits of the right option. Number one, that will be your answer. And number two, the traits of wrong options. They both help you. For example, the question is corollary, so if we know that what kind of characteristics or features the correct answer should have, similarly we should be aware of that what kind of characteristics will be there in the wrong options for the question of corollary or for the question of implication or assumption or inference for that matter. Right? So is that clear? I'm done, and we have discussed these 7 points that were related to your habits. your approach of logical question. Yes. So please acknowledge in case you have understood. Yes, no, any doubts related to any point so that we can proceed to the exercises. All right, good. So I come to know that at least there is somebody listening to me. Right. And then this last part is your, I have given you the lighthouse, how to approach to these questions. The very first thing, the information the question seeks. Second thing, how to analyze the passage to extract out this information. And then we should also be aware of the traits of the options. So needless to mention, every time we solve a question, we will have to go into the same direction. First thing, the information it requires, and I will give you the definition. I will simplify it with the help of the examples. And once you have understood it properly, I will tell you about the, then only I will tell you about the, the how to analyze the paragraph, and then the characteristics of the wrong and right options. Biswajit, point number 5 and 6. I think you have joined a little late. The point is very clear. Read for implication means read for the meaning ना. तो बिस्वजी जैसे आप कहते हैं ना, भावनाओं को समझो, यानी सिर्फ शब्दों को मत पकड़ो. Don't just go by the words, but rather focus on its meaning, what the person wants to convey, what is the underlying current. So यहाँ read for implication. For I give an example that A is bigger than B. So here the implication is very simple. The meaning is just one meaning. But the moment example is A is not bigger than B, there are two meanings, that A and B, A could be less than B, or A and B are equal. So any student who does not consider the second meaning and just go ahead with the first meaning, A is smaller than B, will of course end up choosing a wrong option. So similarly, I give this example that if it is said that data from developing countries now freely done by the developed countries or something. So freely word has got two meanings, like without paying any taxes, any money, or maybe without any restrictions, just freely. So always look for implication. Point number 6, what? Don't make your own assumptions. Of course, if you start making your own perception, your own preconceived notions and assumptions, then you will not end up getting the correct answer. So you just go by what the author's argument is that, and then all those valid assumptions logically connected to the passage should be there. For example, given the example like if Hindi names you have come across in the paragraph in the story, and you have made your assumption that they must be Indian, though no information is given. Similarly, here the two students and their standard, the classes are mentioned. One is from 9th, the other from 11th, and you have assumed that since it's from higher class, so B must be taller. That's an assumption, but that may be wrong. So don't make any such assumptions that are prone to be incorrect, right? As if you are given, for example, you are given this piece of information that in a certain venture, the okay. This please discuss the subtopic inference. You see, I will start with the questions. I have mentioned these questions commonly asked in CSAT paper. So I will start with this question corollary, because inference is related to this. So of course you will be able to connect with that. So what will I do first? First thing here, the information the question corollary seeks. So you all are supposed to write the title as corollary. Right? A logical corollary. This is the first type of questions we are discussing. First logical question. What is a corollary? If so, first thing, what kind of information it requires? So it means, what does it mean? The first thing, corollary is, if you go for this dictionary meaning, it means consequence, outcome, right? So it's a consequence and outcome, but a consequence of what? It's a logical consequence or outcome of the point. The point here, I mean that main point. The logical consequence or outcome based on the point, the main point, or the theory of the author, right? So it's a logical step that you may take. Once you have read the paragraph, you have understood the author's main point, what he wants to establish, what is his main argument or main point. So since you have understood that, so what is the second logical step that you can take, that we call as a consequence or outcome based on the main point, right? So the definition of the corollary is clear to everyone, that it should be based on someone's main point or someone's theorem or theory or thesis, and it should be logically a kind of consequence based on that, a logical valid step that you can take, or logical deduction that you can make based on the main point of the author. Is this definition clear? Now that is so. Now I go to the example. You are reading a test paper, a research paper of a scientist. Suppose this is the paper you are reading, and in this paper the research scientist has given the details of his experiments, and then he also mentions his finding, and his finding is mentioned in the last part. What he says? He says, hence it's proven that all liquids have a freezing point. He mentions, he might have given here the details of his experiment, the equations, the calculations. Based on all the final finding or the theory of this author, this scientist, is this. Hence, it is proven that all liquids have a freezing point. Now, you are supposed to find out a corollary based on this. So what is a corollary? Corollary will be the outcome, the consequence based on the main point. Do remember, it should be the main point, the theory, not any other point, secondary or tertiary level point, no. The corollary, after looking at this main finding, main conclusion, this is the main point or the theory of the scientist, you make a corollary, and the corollary is that milk can be frozen. Now it is valid logically based on the main point of the scientist finding, and there is no doubt, because so corollary is the finding, the theory, the logical step that you have taken, on the basis of which you make a deduction, and this deduction should be logically based on the author's main point. Now the challenge you will face, so far as the intro part is concerned, it is clear to all of you. I cite one more example. Suppose we are talking about in Indian context the political people, right? The people who are in power. So the people who are ministers, who are MLAs and MPs who are in power, privilege is a corollary of that. So you can say privilege is the corollary of the power, right? Logically connected and logical consequence of that. And if you remember, in mathematics, you used to follow, or you used to use this word corollary. Suppose you were there to prove some equation, and then you come across a certain case, in your equation, where you feel a particular theorem can be used. Any theorem, let's say a Pythagoras theorem, let's say a theorem of any other mathematician, you find while writing your steps, suddenly you come across a step where you feel okay, here is this ideal case where a particular theorem can be used. So this then you prove as a corollary to that theorem. So that's an outcome or finding based on an already established or proven point. So corollary is an outcome or is a consequence based upon an already proven point, an already established theorem. So first dimension is clear. The information the question seeks, that is the consequence. Now we proceed to the second dimension, the analysis of the para to extract out this information. How the para should be analyzed. Make sure that you do not commit an error in identifying the main point of the author. The moment a student commits an error and he does not identify exactly where is the main point, what the author is basically saying, of course he is bound to commit an error. So he will end up choosing a wrong option. So the analysis should be done on the basis of the main point. The intro is done, the analysis I am talking about. So it all depends upon how efficiently you have identified the main point of the para. Some of the options may be written based upon the secondary point the author has mentioned. As I told you the other day that that author may have written different points in the paragraph. Like if you look at the main root of a plant, this is the main root. But from the main root, various secondary and tertiary level roots also shoot out, right? That give a complete stability and expanse to the plant. So you should never be confused between the corollary will be something based on the main root, not based on the secondary or tertiary level root. How watchful you are, how alert and attentive you are when you are evaluating the options, right? Whether the option is a consequence, logically connected, based on the main point, primary root, main root, not on the secondary or peripheral issues. I hope that's clear to you. We have mentioned the main point of the para. Now, so far as the main point is concerned, the main point could be openly, explicitly mentioned by the author, or the main point could be implicitly written, or in an implied manner it may be written. Implied manner, all such students who do not understand, by the way, explicitly is clear, like directly, explicitly, openly, directly. Another word is implicitly. Implicit is something which is not openly said, but it is meant, logically connected, yani implied kind of, implied or implicit. There is a slight difference between implicit and implied. Implied idea of the paragraph is that what is the main idea, whereas the implicit information could not be the main idea that author wants to convey. However, you can make those logical deductions. So let me cite an example so that you be clear about imply and implicit information. After that, we will go to the question. So first thing, let's say, take an example to understand that what is an implicit piece of information. Implicit information. I just write info, that's fine. Suppose a son says to his father that I have secured third place in the race. A third position or third place in the race. Now, what is the explicit information? Explicit directly mention that the son participated in a race. What is his position? Third position. All this is explicit or directly mentioned, right? We just look at the language, the words are given there. The implicit information, implicit. Now the implicit information you can means that any logical deductions, any inbuilt sense that you can take out of it. For example, one implicit information I take out here is that that we can make out for this race, there were at least two more candidates who participated in this race. Right or wrong? Absolutely right, because his place is third, so there must be at least second, two more, minimum two more. There could be more than then. If there are 10, then he has got third position. So total, 9 other students also, 9 other candidates also participated. So at least word makes it safe, and it's a logically connected implicit information from this para. However, when the author asks you that what is the implied idea of the paragraph, yeah, you are going to, because separately the question of implied idea is also asked, and as I said here that we are discussing it in reference to corollary. So in corollary, if the author has not mentioned the information openly directly, but rather in an implied manner or implicit manner, as I said here, the implied manner is like when the author is intended to convey the main point, however, he does not say it openly. Right? So you can jot down this one line. To imply means, to put meaning, to imply means to put meaning into a statement, to put meaning into a statement without openly saying it. To put meaning in statements without openly saying it. So we have come to this point कि the problem or the challenge that you will face to identify the correct corollary will be from this side, that have you identified the main point? If main point is explicitly mentioned, of course there will be no problem, but if the main point is in implied manner given, then you should be able to identify it correctly, right? The implied idea which is not openly said. So in either of the cases, if author has mentioned many points, more than one point, you should be able to distinguish between these different points as per their weightage, which seems to be the main point, and everything will depend on that. Okay, so before I take you to the third dimension, as you remember, was about the options, the traits of the options, right option or the traits of wrong option. Of course, the right option will be based on the author's main point, whereas the wrong options may be based on the author's other points given in the para, however not the main point, or based on any such point that is not mentioned in the para at all. So the wrong options will be either based on the secondary points, not the main point, or maybe based on any such point that is not given any place in the passage itself. Am I clear? Have you jotted down these points? You all are supposed to just quickly, because the exam is still for, there are like April 28th, May you have your exam. So still it is more than 1 month. Maybe near the exam, if you are going through for practice, you must have something to actually to refer to. And these one or two liners here and there along with the question, or wherever I ask you to note down, you must. So dear, about corollary, the options traits, you are writing that the wrong options, either number one, either the option is based on the secondary point, or number two, either option is based on some point not given in the passage at all. I hope that's clear. Now I will take you to the question of corollary and see that how you solve it. As I said that every year in the paper except 2022, they have asked 1 or 2 questions of corollary. So here is the practice question for you. Look at the passage number 6, asked in 2021 paper. Passage 6. This is, I have opened this file, CR questions, miscellaneous types. This is the title of the sheet, critical reasoning based questions, miscellaneous. It is there in the portal, right? And in this sheet, go for passage number 6, asked in the paper 2021. So do remember, you are supposed to find out the corollary, and it should be based on the author's main point, logically connected to that. So let's solve it. Author says, in India, the objective of macroeconomic policy is to enhance the economic welfare of the people. The objective of the macroeconomic policy is mentioned there, to enhance the welfare of the people. And any one wing of such macro policy, which is to enhance the welfare of the people, any one wing of such macro policy, monetary or fiscal, these are the wings, cannot independently work without active support of another. It means monetary and fiscal cannot work independently. They should work in tandem, collaboratively, right, for the welfare of the people. So monetary and fiscal cannot work alone. They will have to work as a team, in tandem. Corollary आपको identify करना है. Of course, the last line, second line seems to be making the author's main point. Because the first line only mentioned कि India में objective of macroeconomic policy is to enhance the economic welfare of the people. But how will it work? There the author's formula is written. Now when you go to options, option A says the central bank cannot work independently of the government. Yes, makes sense. As you all know, central bank means monetary and government related to fiscal. Central bank, monetary, okay. Seems to be, it's a logical step based on author's main point. If you go for B option, it says government should regulate financial markets and institutions closely. It is not the main point. not the main point. Government should regulate, because here nothing is mentioned about the monetary. See, market economy is not compatible with the socialist policies of the government. Nothing has been mentioned about the socialist policies. So not based on the main point. D option, financial sector reforms. Financial sector reforms are required for enhancing the economic welfare of the people. Right? Now the paragraph does not talk about the reforms at all. Hence, D is based on something not given in the passage at all. Both students have chosen the correct answer. It should be option A. Right? So, guys, if you have your goal, your objective, and you have identified that, and your goal or objective is set by the question. If you know the basic requirements of the questions, and then you analyze the passage, chances are you will see through the wrong options. Otherwise, if you do not know, many students will go for D, just because the positivity, just because this the kind of magnitude of the answer, they are in fact simply mesmerized with that. So this should not happen. So that's the reason my approach, whenever I teach students, I always suggest them that your approach should be question oriented rather than anything else. And the question oriented means that what a question demands, and then evaluate the given options. You will see through. Okay. So I'm now going to give you 5 questions. My expectations is high, and I'm going to give you, first I will give you this passage. Passage number 5, the rural poor across including India, right? So we start in this direction, go into the reverse directions. First you solve the 5th passage, then the 4th one ask in 2015, no, it's in 2018 or some year. Then here is 2015 question, passage 3, then passage 2 ask in 18, passage 1 ask in 2019. So this way you see almost every year there is a question of corollary. So passage number 5 on your screen, 5 questions you are going to solve. Hence I must set the target as well, because the accuracy level and the speed, they both matter a lot. So dear, your this passage number 5, 4, 3, time you already know, 2 minutes, not more than that for one passage. And your score should be minimum 3 out of 5. Let's say that how many are above this line, though 4 or 5 out of 5, this is the minimum score. So time is not more than 10 minutes. Go ahead with passage number 5, the rural poor across the world. I assume that you are using your own source for reading this paragraph. Now para number 4. Para number 4 from here. Climate change is already making many people hungry all over the world. Now passage 3 on your screen. And now passage number 1. Alright, so time up. Now we discuss the answers of these 5 questions. And the very first passage, the answer should be option B. So I write down the answer. It should be B for passage 1. Passage 2, option A. Passage 3, option C. And passage 4, option B. And passage 5, it should be option A. So 1B, second A, third C, fourth B, fifth A. Parth, you have cracked it. All 5 answers are correct. And good. It means you have understood the corollary part very well. Bidisha, your answer for first B correct, second A correct, third C. Third, I don't know why you missed third one, which is easier. Fourth anyway B, and fifth is B. You have missed the fifth one and you did not try the third one. And Suvasis, first B to D, first B. Why you got second one wrong? Second is option A. You chose D, third C, fourth B, and fifth again B. So Suvasis, you missed in fact 2 answers. Parth and Sahib got all 5 correct. Sampurna got not Sampurna this time, but missed 1, got 4 out of 5. Anyway, 4 out of 5, it is also a good score. All such students who have remained, who have gone below 3, below 5, they have done. So Mijanur, yes, your answer 5 out of 5, good. So corollary you have understood. Now if next time a question of corollary, or in the test if corollary appears, I suppose you all will be able to clear it. Yes or no? So let me put it to the test. I'm just going to discuss the doubts because as Sampurna missed 1, Vidisha might have missed 2, and so the other Spandan got 2 out of 5. So this time it was pathetic in Spandan. You got earlier, I think you got all correct. So corollary mein, what is the why did you miss a particular question? Let's address that and then we'll give you the other questions. So let's start with passage number 5. Passage number 5, you see, is there anyone who has doubt? Please now students write down your doubts related to a passage. Okay, this time 3. So passage number 5, the author, the structure of the point, the main point of the passage you need to understand, which has been said here in an implied manner. It's not explicitly mentioning, but I think it's an implied manner. You should have, you know, you should have noticed it. You know, the day in day out you evaluate the given data in your social settings with your friends, in your family members and relatives, and you come to some conclusions. You try to identify what a person who is not directly saying something, but what he wants to convey, what is his main point, right? Same you have to apply here. Question number 5, yeah, I have already started with. So dear, the first part, author talks you about the rural poor across the world, including India. They have contributed little. So first part is devoted that they have contributed little to climate degradation. Yet they are facing the music. They are at the front line in coping with effects. Then what kind of threats these farmers are facing? The new threats, the old threats, author mentions. The new threat, melting of glaciers, sea level rise, etc. Earlier threats that farmers can no longer rely on historical average for rainfall. That is very, uneven one, unpredictable one, and the new threats are there. Then author raises a question. He says, how significant are small farms? It means he wants to tell us their significance. They are important. So these small farms in India and the world are facing various challenges, right? Though their contribution has not been as high as the big farmers, right? Yet they are facing the challenge. Then after asking the question, author gives you the answer. He says as many as 2 billion people worldwide depend on them for their food. Big number, 2 billion people, and livelihood. Smallholder farmers in India produce 41% of the country's food grains and other food items that contribute to local and national food security. 41% is a big number, right? Their contribution is this, and they're facing problem without playing the main villain role to climate degradation. So if you connect these dots, you get to know that what is the implied idea of the author. He has done an advocacy for the poor farmers in India. That seems to be the main point. So any logical deduction based on that, any next logical step based on that will be the correct answer for corollary. So if you go for option A, it says supporting small farmers is an important part of any agenda regarding environmentally sustainable development. Yes. If you go for B option, it says poor countries have little role to play in the mitigation of global warming. Now it is only related to the global warming impact. Their contribution to the food grain is mentioned in India. And next, second discrepancy you should notice, the paragraph talks about rural poor, the rural farmers, including India. It does not talk about the poor countries. It is another thing that you can say, yes sir, in a poor country there is a bright chance that there will be more poor farmers. Yes, that's true, but we can never say that in a poor country there are no rich farmers. There may be rich farmers also. The passage is specifically focused on the rural poor and smallholder farmers. So B is in fact has deviated from the path, and suppose if they have little role to play, it's already given, but it is not given for poor countries about the rural poor across the world, smallholders. So B is wrong. Option C, due to a large number of farmers' households, India will not have food security problems in the foreseeable future. Again, it cannot be concluded because 41% is a big number, and the farmers are facing the new threats as well. So we can't say India will not have food security problem. We don't know, and we can't say. Actually, the situation is more towards more tilting towards that problem rather than only smallholder farmers. Look at the word only. Smallholder farmers in India can ensure food security. It is totally incorrect because 41% they produce. It means the remaining 59% may be coming from other farmers, who are not small holding farmers. So dear, how can we say that only smallholder farmers who are producing less in comparison to others in India can ensure food security? So option A is the correct answer. Now You all must have realized, all those who missed passage number 5, that the basic, deviation from the approach, that where is the main point, that will cost you dearly. So please be careful और थोड़ा सा पैसेज को करते रहें. The transition से यहाँ it does not, I thought a small formal line is a transition line. Author is from the beginning till the end is only talking about smallholders, right? The transition is only here that one aspect, the threats they are facing, their contribution in the beginning. So there is a transition, that the contribution is actually very negligible, the threat they are facing, the new threat, and then what is their contribution in national food security. So there are various subtopics. Those the transitions are throughout, but it is focused on the small farmers. Passage number 4, and passage number 4, climate change is already making many people hungry in all over the world by disrupting crop yields. It's not just food, but nutrients that are becoming scarcer as the climate change. Then author says it is the poorest communities. Look at his point of view, that will suffer the worst effects of climate change, including increased hunger and all that. On the other hand, poverty is a driver of climate change. On the other hand, this is a climate change. So author's idea is clear that the poorest communities are the worst sufferers because of the climate change, and also vice versa, that because of the poor communities, they cause climate degradation. So option B, poverty and climate impacts reinforce each other, and therefore we have to reimagine our food system. This is based on the author's main point. On the other hand, phrase used by the author plays a very important role. It means two aspects of the idea have been shown here. Option A, government should allocate more funds to poverty alleviation programs. Where the author is saying that, so how can it be a logical deduction based on the passage? Should allocate more funds to poverty alleviation programs and increase food subsidies to the poor communities. But what the poor are doing to the climate, that is simply out of the ambit of this option. Hence, A cannot be the valid corollary. C, all the countries of the world must unite in fighting poverty and malnutrition and treat poverty as a global problem. Okay, only on concern on this point. But what the poverty is doing, can some preventive measure be taken there? That is not being discussed in C. So just like option A. D, we must stop unsustainable agricultural practices immediately and control food prices. It only talks about we, right? And the para talks about the poor farmers, the poor, what they are doing. So unsustainable agricultural practices, moreover, it talks about. So option B. So if you pay attention to what the author is saying, you will not miss it. Now passage number 3, quite simple. Third person cannot get, how can we conclude about the whole bird species by only reading about flamingos? Where we have chosen about whole bird species, the correct answer is C option here. Did I write about whole? Let me cross check passage number 3. Passage number 3, the correct answer is C. The passage talks about flamingos in large flocks in the wild are social and extremely loyal. Now, since the passage only talks about their social behavior, hence mass nesting in all species of birds becomes incorrect because of all species of birds. B is also wrong because it says only birds have the capacity. We don't know whether other species have it or not. And same goes with D, all species of birds set up. No, we don't know. C, social behavior in some species of birds increases the odds of survival in an unsafe world. That is the correct answer. So Bidisha, just because of this some species, because of one example flamingos is given there, we can accept the word some. I don't know what are you pointing out. Actually all and only and all extreme notions are written in other options. Passage number 2. Passage number 2 talks about many pathogens that cause foodborne illnesses are unknown. Right? Food contamination can occur at any stage from farm to plate. Any stage means even locally produced food is also vulnerable, as it can happen at any stage. Since most cases of food poisoning go unreported, the true extent of global foodborne illness is unknown. Improvements in international monitoring have led to greater public awareness, yet the rapid globalization of food production increases consumers' vulnerability by making food harder to regulate and trace. We have the word on a plate, says an official. So with more options for food come more risks. This we get as the right corollary because the author has also used the one such officer's version. Whereas B option says food processing is the source of all foodborne illnesses. All makes it incorrect, not based on the main point. C, we should depend on locally produced food only. Now, locally food produced only, but the food contamination can happen at any stage from farm to plate. It is not saying necessarily that food should have traveled from a far off place, exotic food. It says that it can happen at any stage. So even locally produced food is also vulnerable. Hence, C does not make sense. Last option, globalization of food production should be curtailed. Curtailed means should be cut down or stopped. Now, globalization of food production just on the basis of this, cannot be established because food production contamination is happening at local level as well. It is only that globalization, look at this part, it says improvements in international monitoring have led to greater public awareness, yet the rapid globalization of food production increases consumers' vulnerability, right? Because of globalization, this problem has increased, but it is not saying that this problem has only come into existence because of globalization. No, globalization has increased this problem because it is hard to trace and regulate food. However, it is not the only genesis of this problem. Hence, you cannot choose option D, right? So, we are left with option A. Next, the last passage, number 1. In this, somebody has doubt in this passage as well. It talks about digital phenomenon restructuring most social sector. It is little surprise, little means negligible surprise, that global trade negotiations are now eyeing the digital area in an attempt to preemptively colonize it. In the first session, I also gave an example from, I think from almost the same para. Big data is freely collected or mined from developing countries and converted. The correct option, like if you look at option A, it says globalization is not in the interest of India as it undermines its socio-economic structures. Dear, we cannot blame globalization for something that is a byproduct of globalization. Globalization is a huge canvas, and the paragraph talks about a certain dot on this canvas. Now this dot can be erased, can be corrected, can be bettered, but you cannot say, sir, the whole canvas should be brought down just to eliminate this dot, right? Like for this, for example, I have put this dot on this screen, and if I want to remove it, should I crash this screen or should I just use eraser? So the problem here is that this is talking about that big data, and because of the economic liberalization and open market and all that, this thing should have come into picture. But saying that globalization is actually not the correct corollary, because author has not blamed globalization as such. India should be careful to protect its digital sovereignty in global trade talks. This is the valid logical consequence, because author has said that they are trying to preemptively colonize, which is a big word. It means it becomes the issue of sovereignty. Big data is freely collected, so no one should choose option C, which says India should charge monopoly rents from multinational companies in exchange for big data. From this word that big data is freely collected, the two meanings are possible. Means that they are not paying money, or the other meaning is that without restriction. Without restriction. Now, you know, that since the author has said that it's a sovereignty issue because the companies are trying to preemptively colonize us. So this data protection is very important part. So there are least chances that he will agree with this. So it's without restriction, hence C does not make sense. D, the loss of big data from India is proportional to the degree or value of its foreign trade. You know, whether it's proportional to that, less than that, maybe slightly more than that, we don't have that much of data to establish this point. Hence, what the author wants to convey, corollary is option B, right? So that makes the logical consequence based on the passage, as author has also given the example of the large company. Maybe this is the example of the Uber. So it's only very few students who have missed the target. Unfortunately, they did not mention here. Only one student told me, Spandan, that the score is 2 out of 5. Other students did not. So dear, I suppose after the discussion, it must have been, strengthened. And so the time is to actually go for a couple of more questions of corollary. To just from the CSAT paper, I am going to show you. This is again, it is there in your on your portal. The name of the sheet you can find out, practice sheet 2 miscellaneous. Miscellaneous questions are given here. In this one, in this sheet you come across, you will find 3 or 4 questions of corollary. I want you to attempt question number 1. The very first question based on corollary. Okay. So I write down the number of the passage you are supposed to solve. This time be careful. Passage number 1. All such students who earlier missed out must now correct, score 100%. So passage 1, then we have passage number 10, logical corollary. Passage 10 from practice sheet 2. Then passage 13. And then passage 15. Your score should be 4 out of 4. Right? Identify the author's main idea, what he seems to convey, and based on that main idea, not any other idea, secondary points or any point that has got a mention in the passage. Based on that, which option is the logical consequence, connected and can be taken as a step, right? So go for passage number 1, or you can start from passage number 15 itself. That is on your screen. I think you can follow it from here. Time limit is 8 minutes. So 27 by my watch, by 35 you must have done. Now passage 13 on your screen. Alright, so some students have done it. All four. You have 1 more minute to go. All right, so now I'm going to discuss the answer, write the answers first. For passage 1, option A, then passage 10, it should be option C. Passage 13, sorry 14, 13, option D, and the last passage 15, it should be already done. This 15, it was there, should be B option. So in fact there are just 3 questions. 15 is a repetition of the one we did earlier in the class sheet. So these are the answers for passage 1A, 10C, 13D. So 1A, 10C, 13D. Very good, Biswajit. And 1B, Spandan, you missed the first one. 10th C, correct. 13C. So you missed 2. You chose C here, you chose. So it means you have not gained the confidence, Spandan, this time for corollary. And 1A, 10C, 13D. Yes. Sukanta got all 3 correct. D, first one. Parth, you got first one incorrect. Then C and D are correct. Then 1D. Again, Swasis, you also got first wrong and 13 wrong. So, 2 wrong ho gaye, dear. Madhumita, first A. Then 10th B. You missed the 10th one. 13D. Vidisha, first A, 10C, 13C. 13 you got incorrect. A, C, D. Yes, Tista got all 3 correct. Biswajit got all 3 correct. And Priyasmita got first A, 10C3. Yes, Priyasmita got all 3 correct. Suman got all 3 correct. Okay, so 4 out of 4, not many students have got all 4 correct. Yes, and so why did you miss that one question? Anyone doubtful about passage 15? 15 already I have discussed in the previous, so good, take you to passage 13. Anyone doubtful of passage 13? Decay, you have done 6 plus 4, 10 questions of corollary, all from CSAT paper. And I have explained from the scratch. So 13 is confusing for you. 13 is very clearly establishing the main point. 13 is confusing for 2 students. Increase in human-made carbon dioxide in the atmosphere could initiate a chain reaction between plants and microorganisms that would unsettle one of the largest carbon reservoirs on the planet, soil. Soil is the biggest, largest. Then author gives the data to support. In a study, it was found that the soil, which contains twice the amount of carbon present in all plants and Earth's temperature, so twice it is in the soil, could become increasingly volatile as people add more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. This is largely because of the increased plant growth. Okay, increased plant growth can also destabilize it. Greenhouse gases, plant growth, greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide also supports plant growth. Yes. So as trees and other vegetation flourish in a carbon dioxide rich future, their roots could stimulate microbial activity in soil that may in turn accelerate the decomposition of soil carbon and its release into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Right. So because of more plant growth, that trapped carbon can be destabilized and can be unleashed in the atmosphere. So option D, increasing green cover could trigger the release of carbon trapped in soil. This is the logical deduction, next step that you can take. Which option confuse you? I don't understand. Like option B, humans are solely responsible. Incorrect. The key extreme word is they are only responsible for the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, because the plants are also doing that. So how can you say solely? So B is clearly incorrect. A option, carbon dioxide is essential for the survival of microorganisms and plants. The main theory is not about this. Microorganisms and soil carbon are mainly responsible for the increased plant growth. Actually, they want to convey here about the soil. So author's main idea is that the carbon trapped in the soil is very potent one, is a very potent threat, and its correlation with the with plants. So you understood this? This one not fair. I mean, you missed the main point. I have repeatedly said that don't miss the main point. Your option D is just based on that. Other options are just connected to any other point. I'll address your question in a while. Passage 13 हो गया. अब देखते हैं passage 10. कितना सिंपल पैसेज है बताइए. ये कहता है by killing transparency and competition, crony capitalism it talks about is harmful to free enterprise, opportunity and economic growth. What is crony capitalism? It is being defined here, where rich and influential are alleged to have received land and natural resources and various licenses in return for payoffs to venal politicians. Venal means corrupt. Is now a major issue to be tackled. Is a major issue to be tackled. Crony capitalism, a major issue that can cause corruption. One of the greatest dangers to growth of developing economies like India is the middle income trap, yani caused by crony capitalism, where crony capitalism creates oligarchies that slow down the growth. So the resourceful people, they get a claim on the natural resources. In return, the politicians are paid some kickbacks and the venal of corrupt politician. So crony capitalism, and as like I think very relevant examples we have nowadays. So dear, this is what the paragraph is talking about, and you have to be watchful that the topic is crony capitalism, which causes this middle income trap. Now option A says launching. So author's point is that crony capitalism should causes lack of transparency and hence should be tackled. Launching more welfare schemes and allocating more finances for the current schemes are urgently needs. Oh, then, but you do not address here crony capitalism. So this option actually CC crony capitalism not given any place in option A. B, efforts should be made to push up economic growth by other means and provide license to the poor. By other means, like let CC crony capitalism stay there. We should just go for the alternate route, you know. And one more logical error is here, and provide license to the poor. The question is that whether the poor can do those, can undertake those projects that are being undertaken by the resourceful people, industrialists. अब आप किसी पुअर को लाइसेंस दे दें कि ओके टेक दिस लाइसेंस, गो टू गुजरात एंड देयर यू नो आप जितना गैस पेट्रोलियम जो भी मिलता है आपको सब ले लो. Somebody who does not have a bread and butter at his place, how can he arrange this thing? So that is a question. Yeah? So you should have looked at this point. Just because it is said that they are venal politicians, but they are talking about the rich, I mean resourceful people. So anybody who is capable of taking up this, so A wrong, B wrong. C, greater transparency in the functioning of the government and promoting the financial inclusion, because the poor left behind and the middle income trap is there, are needed at present. Absolutely correct. Greater transparency is addressing the issue of crony capitalism. Last option, we should concentrate more on developing manufacturing sector than service sector. Where this comparison has been done? Nowhere at all. So nobody can afford to get this one incorrect. We go to the first passage. Over the last decades, Indian agriculture has more robust with record production of food grains and oil seeds. So on one hand, we have this robust production of food grains, right? India is one of the world's top producers of rice, wheat, milk. After telling you all this, that India is a great producer of food grains and all, then author says transition is here. India is still home to a quarter of all undernourished people in the world. On an average, almost half of the total expenditure of nearly half of the households is on food. Yeah. On one hand, we have added huge stocks of food grains in granaries. We are one of the top producers of food grains in the world. On the other hand, we are home to 25% of undernourished people. अब दोनों में आप ऐड कर लें क्या? And then almost half of the total expenditure of nearly half of the households is on food. So much is spent on the food. So option A, increasing the efficiency of farm to fork value chain is necessary to reduce the poverty and malnutrition. Yes, farm to fork means make food available to those who need it, because it is there stored in your granaries and you are one of the top producers in the food, yet the food is not available to 1/4 of the world's total undernourished people. So farm to fork, from farm, the agricultural practices to the plate, to the thali of the poor. So this is the valid consequence corollary based on the main point. If you go for other option like B, increasing the agriculture productivity will automatically eliminate, is it the author's idea? So can it qualify as a corollary? No, because the corollary should be based on the author's idea, and I told you that the challenge will be how to identify the main idea. See, India's agriculture productivity is already great, and it's not necessary, not author's idea. Allocation of more funds for solid social welfare and poverty alleviation programs will ultimately eliminate the poverty and malnutrition in India. So going beyond the logical scope, of this para. So folks, we come back to this question corollary. I told you that in the question of corollary we have to be careful. Even before that the point was written, right? We started from here, that in all logical questions, first understand the information the question seeks, which is a very important part. The analysis of the para to extract out this information, and then the traits of the options, right options, traits of wrong options. Having discussed that, I discuss about corollary introduction, that it should be based on the main point. As I gave the example that if all liquids have a freezing point, corollary is that milk can be frozen. So it is logically taken step, second step or consequence, The analysis should be that identify the main point. The challenge will be here, and some of you, Spandan and others, who have missed it, they have missed it because of the reason they did not identify the main point. Purpose of discussing BRS tool was not to miss the main point made by the author. So explicitly either the pain point is mentioned, then there is no problem. For example, when author talks about this, crony capitalism, that was explicitly mentioned. When the author mentioned about the carbon trapped in the soil is the second, is the biggest threat, is double than available than there in the environment. So there he did not, and then he established the correlation between the plants and the carbon dioxide, right, and how it destabilizes the soil trap. So main point identification is a challenge that you need to overcome. Implied version or implicit way may the information main point is said, or explicitly it is mentioned, the challenge is to take up that, and then only you can proceed for corollary. So all such students who missed some of the passages, total 9 passages we solve here of corollary, they must again read these passages that they got incorrect, cross check what they missed out and why did they miss out. It is a very important part because in exams you have, in the next month you have exams, so obviously this is the last time. As a more, you must do it in a very effective manner. So don't take any CSAT classes lightly. हमने डिज़ाइन इस तरह से किया है कि यू गेट एम्पल अमाउंट ऑफ प्रैक्टिस, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी आर गोइंग स्लो, तो मैंने आपको एक क्वेश्चन करोलरी आज कराया, एंड आई हैव टोल्ड यू द बेसिक्स. हाउ विल वी गो अबाउट अदर क्वेश्चंस, आई हैव टोल्ड यू अबाउट देम. सो अबाउट ईच क्वेश्चन द बेसिक अप्रोच विल बी दैट व्हाट रिक्वायर्ड बाय दैट क्वेश्चन. सो प्लीज रिमेंबर, इफ देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ मैंगो, you cannot go just for orange, it's a fruit. They have the commonness, they are part of, they are types of fruit. However, you must know the nuances, the nitty-gritty of these. So the questions के साथ में भी यही चीज़ है, आपको बिल्कुल सही पहचानना पड़ेगा. Now Suman has asked a different sort of question, more of language component. What should we do when not able to identifying the meaning of any particular word which can actually decide the right answer? Yes, that will be a very dreaded situation, and you should, Suman, pray not to come across this kind of situation. However, if a word or two you do not know in the paragraph, because of the language sense and because of the other words you can make out a sense. But if it is given at a very crucial junction, position, and or it is given in the options, which options are also 1 or 2 worded, in those cases it is really very challenging. So Suman, believe me, there is no other way out except that you work on your vocab. Commonly it's a very rare situation you will come across, but then suppose you come across in the options and the 4 options are written, of each option is 1 worded, or maybe so if 1 worded, at least 3 you must know. So even if you don't know the 4th one, you can still take out the answer. But if you do not know 2 words and you know just 2 words, then how will you decide? So that would be the worst scenario. Okay. I'll be sharing with you this file, as I said, PDF file for the vocab, right? You will receive it and then you are supposed to go through that. Alright students, so before I take up the other question, the next question on the list is implication. So अभी इसको डिस्कस करेंगे कल, ठीक है. आपका काम क्या है? Your job is to complete the test 1 based on basic reading skill. Implication question we will start from tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Take care, but do spare 10, 15 or maybe maximum 30 minutes for RC section for practice. In a day or 2 I will increase, you will have to devote more time. Alright, so see you tomorrow. Good night.